glasses. When Caroline had fetched the brush and returned to the front door, Amber took it and went pounding down the walkway, calling "Thanks" over her shoulder. Still disoriented from her nap, Caroline closed the door and made her way back to the bed, where she patted the scattered blankets until she found her glasses and fitted them on. She sat down and switched on the lamp and leaned over the phone book page. Turning the book around to follow the nearest scrawl, she read, "Bank accounts. Get my hairbrush from her now." "Sorry, sorry," exclaimed Caroline. Then, in her own handwriting, she wrote, "I'll get it back." She waited, wondering why she must get the hairbrush back from Amber. Was it somehow necessary that all of BV's possessions be kept together? Probably at least the ones with voodoo-type identity signatures on them, DNA samples, like hair caught in a brush, dried saliva traces on dentures, Kleenexes in a forgotten wastebasket, but abruptly her chest felt cold and hollow. But this message had been written down before she had given Amber the hairbrush, and Caroline had been awake only for the last few seconds of the message transmission, which, if it had been like the others, had been repeating for at least a full minute before she woke up. The message had been addressed to Amber next door, not to her. Amber had read it somehow, and had obediently fetched the hairbrush. Could all of these messages have been addressed to the girl? Caroline remembered wondering whether BV might have needed to brace herself against something in order to communicate from the far side of the grave. Had BV been bracing herself against Caroline, her still-living twin, in order to talk to Amber? Insignificant Amber? Caroline was dizzy, but she got to her feet and kicked off her slippers, then padded into the bedroom for a pair of outdoor shoes. She had to carry them back to the living room. The bed in the bedroom had been BV's too, and she didn't want to sit on it in order to pull the shoes on. And on the way, she leaned into the bathroom and grabbed her own hairbrush. Dressed in one of her old church attendant skirts, with fresh lipstick and carrying a big embroidered purse, Caroline pulled the door closed behind her and began shuffling down the walk. The sky was a very deep blue above the tree branches, and the few clouds were extraordinarily far away overhead, and it occurred to her that she couldn't recall stepping out of the house since BV's funeral. She never drove any more. Amber was the only one who drove the old Pontiac these days, and it was Amber who went for groceries, reimbursed with checks that Caroline wrote out to her, and the box of checks came in the mail, which Amber brought in from the mailbox by the sidewalk. If Caroline alienated the girl, could she do these things herself? She would probably starve. Caroline's hand had begun wriggling as she reached the sidewalk and turned right, toward Amber's parents' house, but she resisted the impulse to pull a pen out of her purse. "She's not talking to me," she thought, blinking back tears in the sunlight that glittered on the windshields and bumpers of passing cars. "She's talking to stupid Amber. I won't eavesdrop." Amber's parents had a Spanish-style house at the top of a neatly mowed sloping lawn, and a green canvas awning overhung the big arched window out front. Even shading her eyes with her manageable left hand, Caroline couldn't see anyone in the dimness inside, so she puffed up the widely spaced steps, and while she was catching her breath on the cement apron at the top, the front door swung inward, releasing a puff of cool, floor-polish scent. Amber's young, dark-haired mother, Christine, was staring at her curiously. "It's Caroline," she said, "right?" "Yes," Caroline smiled, feeling old and foolish. "I need to talk to Amber." The mother was looking dubious. "I want to pay her more, and see if she'd be interested in balancing my checkbook." The woman nodded, as if conceding a point. "Well, I think that might be good for her." She hesitated, then stepped aside. "Come in and ask her. She's in her room." Caroline got a quick impression of a dim living room with clear plastic covers over the furniture, and a bright kitchen with copper pans hung everywhere, and then Amber's mother had knocked on the bedroom door and said, "Amber, honey, "You've got a visitor," and pushed the door open. "I'll let you two talk," the woman said, and stepped away toward the living room. Caroline stepped into the room. Amber was sitting cross-legged on the pink bedspread, looking up from a cardboard sheet with a rock and a pencil and BV's hairbrush on it. Lacy curtains glowed in the street-side window, and a stack of what appeared to be textbooks stood on an otherwise bare white desk in the opposite corner. The couple of pictures on the walls were pastel blobs. The room smelled like cake. Caroline considered what to say. "Can I help?" she asked finally. Amber, who had been looking wary, brightened and sat up straight. "Shut the door." When Caroline had shut it, Amber went on, "You know she's coming back." She waved at the cardboard in front of her. "She's been talking to me all day." "I know, child." Caroline stepped forward and leaned down to peer at it, and saw that the girl had written the letters of the alphabet in an arc across the cardboard. "It's one of those things people use to talk to ghosts," Amber explained with evident pride. "I'm using the crystal to point to the letters. Some people are scared of these things, but that's one of the good kind of crystals." "And a Ouija board." "That's it. She made me dream of one over and over again just before the sun came up, because this is her birthday." "Well, yours too, I guess. At first I thought it was a hopscotch pattern, but she made me look closer till I got it." She pursed her lips. "I wrote it by reciting the rhyme, and I accidentally did H and I twice, and left out J and K." She pulled a sheet of lined paper out from under the board. "But it was only a problem once, I think. Can I see? I want this to work out." "Yeah, she won't be gone. She'll be in me. Did she tell you?" She held out the paper. "I drew in lines to break the words up." "Yes, she told me." Caroline slowly reached out to take the paper from her, and then held it up close enough to read the penciled lines. "I need your help, please." "Who are you?" "I am BV." "How can I help you?" "I need to use your body. Invite me into your body. I'm sorry for everything. Please." "Are you an angel now? Can you grant wishes?" "Yes." "Can you make me beautiful?" "Yes, forever." "Okay, what do I do?" "Exhausted. More later." "BV, it's after lunch. Are you rested up yet?" "Yes." "Make me beautiful." "Get my hairbrush from my sister." "Is that word hairbrush?" "Yes. Then you can invite me into you." "How will you do it?" "We will be you together." "What will we do?" "Get slim. Travel the world." "Will we be rich?" "Yes. I have bank accounts. Get my hairbrush from her now." "I got it." "Night time. Stand over grave. Brush your hair. Invite me in." "That should be BANK in that one line," explained Amber helpfully, "and I'll want to borrow your car tonight." Not trusting herself to speak, Caroline nodded and handed the paper back to her, wondering if her own face was red or pale. She felt invisible and repudiated. BV could have approached her own twin for this, but her twin was too old, and if she did manage to occupy the body of this girl, a more intimate sort of twinhood, she would certainly not go on living with Caroline, and she had eaten all the Vicodins and Darvocets. Caroline picked up the rock. It was some sort of quartz crystal. "When," she began in a croak. She cleared her throat and went on more steadily. "When did you get that second-to-last message? About the bank accounts and the hairbrush?" "That one? Oh, just a minute before I knocked on your door." Caroline nodded, wondering bleakly if BV had even known that she was leaving her with carbon copies, multiple, echoing carbon copies of the messages. She put the rock back down on the cardboard and picked up the hairbrush. Amber opened her mouth as if to object, then subsided. There were indeed a number of white hairs tangled in the bristles. Caroline tucked the brush into her purse. I need that, said Amber quickly, leaning forward across the board. She says I need it. Oh, of course. I'm sorry. Caroline forced what must have been a ghastly smile, and then pulled her own hairbrush instead out of the purse and handed it to the girl. It was identical to BV's, right down to the white hairs. Amber took it and glanced at it, and then laid it on the pillow out of Caroline's reach. I don't want, said Caroline, to interrupt you two. She sighed, emptying her lungs, and dug the car keys out of her purse. Here, she said, tossing them onto the bed. I'll be next door if you need any help. Fine, okay. Amber seemed relieved at the prospect of her leaving. Caroline was awakened next morning by the pain of her sore right hand flexing, but she rolled over and slept for 10 more minutes before the telephone by her head conclusively jarred her out of the monotonous dream that had occupied the last hour or so. She sat up, wrinkling her nose at the scorched smell from the fireplace, and wishing she had a cup of coffee, and still half seeing the Ouija board she had been dreaming about. She picked up the phone, wincing. Hello? Caroline? Said Amber's voice. Nothing happened at the cemetery last night, and BV isn't answering my questions. She spelled stuff out, but it's not for what I'm writing to her. All she's written so far this morning is, just a sec, she wrote. You win. You'll do. We've always been a team, right? Is she talking to you? Caroline glanced toward the fireplace, where last night she had burned, or charred at least, BV's toothbrush, razor, dentures, curlers, and several other things, including the hairbrush. And today she would call the headstone company and cancel the order. BV ought not to have an easily locatable grave. Me? Caroline made a painful fist of her right hand. Why would she talk to me? You're her twin sister. She might be... BV is dead, Amber. She died 9 weeks ago. But she's coming back. She's going to make me beautiful. She said... She can't do anything, child. We're better off without her. Amber was talking then, protesting, but Caroline's thoughts were of the brothers she couldn't even picture anymore, the nieces she'd never met, and who probably had children of their own somewhere, and her mother, who was almost certainly dead by now. And there was everybody else, too, and not a lot of time. Caroline was resolved to learn to write with her left hand, and, even though it would hurt, she hoped her right hand would go on, writing uselessly in air. At last she stood up, still holding the phone, and she interrupted Amber. Could you bring back my car keys? I've got some errands.
The thread of life is getting extremely thin, my dear sisters. Humanity's tapestry is once again becoming threadbare. If we do not find a way to help them soon, I'm afraid they may all die. We will have to descend down into the underworld once again until humanity has regained their balance.
Verdandi, no. I don't want to go to the underworld again. It stinks there. We must weave their fate stronger. They must survive. Can you whisper to the humans of their fate? If I am to go into the underworld, they are to come with me.
There are powerful female humans down there who interlace the future of many. I have seen it cut in their poles of destiny. Many humans deserve to have their threads cut off. Perhaps another purge is what they need in order to come together once again.
My sisters, word. The past has proven itself. Humans will continue to find ways to destroy themselves. I have seen it in the present. Many humans are trying to protect one another, but power, greed, and hate consumes them. It is ruining our beautiful tapestry. I also do not particularly care for the smell of the underworld.
Then what do you suggest, Verdandi?
What is one of the things which unites humans the most? A great disaster.
Yes, this is truth that you speak. Humans always come to the aid of others. When a catastrophe strikes, they send aid from all over the world to help one another. That is exactly what we need.
But would that be enough to save them?